The Australian boy arrested by police in Bali is still waiting to hear whether a drugs case against him will proceed. The Department of Foreign Affairs says it's too early to say if the 14-year-old will end up in Kerobokan prison, home to members of the Bali Nine and Schapelle Corby. The concern over the Australian teenager's fate is in stark contrast to the plight of Indonesian minors being held in adult prisons here. They're mostly cooks or deckhands brought to Australian shores on asylum seeker boats, and activists say there's up to 100 of them here and that the federal government is refusing to acknowledge the real ages of the boys. Gerry Georgatos is with the Human Rights Alliance. He's visited some of the boys in jail and he joins us now in the studio. Gerry, welcome back to The Drum.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks, people.
Now, last time we had you on, you said there was something around the range of 50 to 60 Indonesian minors in Australian prisons, and now you think there's around 100. What evidence do you have that the figure is that high?
The last time on the show I actually said that the age disputes, thereabouts 60, and that was affirmed by the Australian Federal Police. That was May and June that they affirmed to various others, at least 60 age disputes. It's thereabouts 100 age disputes. If you ask me for a specific figure, 103 or 98, I can't give you that. But I've worked with Indonesian consular officials, asked them and encouraged them to visit, which of course they want to do. They want to actually help their people. They've gone into the prisons and they've reviewed as many of the Indonesian folk that's actually in there as possible. In the one prison alone, Hakea Correctional Facility in Perth, the Indonesian Vice Consul has affirmed to me that there's 16 age disputes at least.
OK, and how do they know that they're under 18?
Because they've spoken to them. In the first instance, it's about what I'm saying here is it's an age dispute. So they've affirmed to them that we're 14, 15, 16 years of age. Now, the Indonesian consular officials who have spoken to me have said, yes, we believe them, that they actually are. We know the difficulties in having to ascertain their age expeditiously. Also, a number of them, for instance, we've been able to secure evidence for them, but it's not court admissible evidence in our country. For instance, for the one child, I was able to secure a national police clearance from Indonesia that stated his date of birth is 1995. Nevertheless, it wasn't sufficient to displace the presumption of evidence from the wrist bone age scan.
OK, so that's the 16-year-old boy you spoke about last time you were on the program, is that right?
That's right. That's
What's
correct.
his situation at the moment?
Well, he's still languishing. He's been in prison, and if you meet this boy, you'll see that he does look 15, 16 years of age. He was 1 year in immigration detention, 10 months of that at Northern Immigration Detention Centre. I met him at the Immigration Centre in Perth, the Perth Detention Centre, when he was being treated for tuberculosis at Royal Perth Hospital. 1 month later, I had learnt while visiting other prisoners that he'd been arrested and charged, and I couldn't believe it, and he was at Hakea Prison, so I organised to visit him then. Look, after all the effort we've gone to try and secure evidence and contact his family, he's still there. But today I've learnt, and I've organised to visit him next Thursday, I've learnt that he's been moved from Hakea Prison, which is in Perth, 400 kilometres, to Albany Regional Prison. So they've moved him 400 kilometres away from support culture, which is the Indonesian consulate, from his lawyer, and from support persons such as myself, which makes no sense whatsoever.
And what reason have they given for that?
No reason. They've given no reason. There is an argument at the moment that they need to free up our Perth prisons, which is ludicrous, for the coming Commonwealth Heads of Governments meeting. Obviously, they're thinking that they're going to be arresting hundreds of people, and you know.
OK, so you've spoken to the Prime Minister about this, haven't you? About his case and the 100 that you say. What has the Prime Minister said to you in response?
Well, nothing. She's done zilch. But to clarify that, I've gone to every authority in the country. All of them have passed the buck. The only one that doesn't seem to pass the buck and seems somewhat embarrassed is actually the Australian Federal Police. They're caught up in minimalist policies and legislation, and all they're required to do is a wrist bone age scan. So they work with that. If the wrist bone age scan scrubs up according to a radiological assessment that they're 19 years or above, then they're charged. But on July 20, I approached the Prime Minister, Julia, met her on a few occasions before. It was a sit, well, if you were there, you wouldn't have believed it. I put out my hand, she put out her hand, she smiled. I said, hi, Julia. We held hands for about 5 minutes. We were surrounded by the press. And I just said straight away, Julia, you know that you've got 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old children in our Australian adult prisons, and there's at least 60 of them. What you need to do is implement expeditiously age determination protocols and not wrist bone age scans that are not fail-safe. Now, she froze, it went icy, and we were there for several minutes. We talked about it. I've contacted her office since. Nothing has happened. She thanked me for the information, and that was actually it. But she froze as if this was another scandal in waiting. And other labour rights have spoken to me behind the scenes, and what they want to see is this be addressed piecemeal. They're worried that this could implode upon them as another scandal, that they've got scores, if not 100 children in our adult prisons. I have contacted the office of Kevin Rudd, and they promised the world. And in July, they promised me that he would be visiting the foreign minister of Indonesia while in Jakarta, which he did. At that time, there was an Indonesian delegation out here because the Indonesian consular officials are actually upset that they're not being notified and that there aren't consular notification protocols in place so that they're notified of their nationals on our shores, especially those who could be children. The issue of that particular boy was actually raised by the Indonesian foreign minister to Kevin Rudd, and of appropriate protocols to ensure that, you know, the numbers that we actually have apparently in our prisons shouldn't be the case, and or if there is doubt that they should be in appropriate jurisdictions or in the care, for instance, of our consular officials till such time as age is determined beyond a reasonable doubt. What I understand from that meeting is, and Kevin Rudd can dispute it if he wants, and I'd love him to actually speak up to the issue, is that he told them, look, he told the foreign minister, rest assured they're safe. You know, we've got them in good care. I can't believe he said that. He said, rest assured they're safe and they're being taken care of while in an adult jurisdiction, in an adult prison. It makes no sense. A lot of these children were, so he's done nothing. And but a lot of these children were actually in kitchens and laundries at some stage. And if it wasn't for people like myself, they wouldn't be removed from there. Kitchens and laundries are often where the sex offenders and paedophiles are actually located too. So it's just unbelievable that they'd be putting them there with unfettered access to that type of criminality.
Chris, have you got a question or a comment?
What happens if it is determined that they're underage? What's the next step? Should that determination occur?
Chris, many kids have also been deemed underage, and the wrist bone age scans for a number of these children have come back saying that they're 14, 15, 16, 17. They're sent back. The policy is that if you're underage, you are sent back to Indonesia. And this may be an argument why the organisers who try and, you know, help, asylum seekers safe passage to our shores, you know, work with so many children, because they don't probably want to see anybody, you know, get 5 years, and they're working with people that they know will be returned back. And that's the premise. But I think last time that I was on the program, I said that 60 out of the last 154 are age disputes. But 60 out of the last 200 at that time were actually age disputes that still finished up with ages deemed above 19. But 40 out of the 200 were actually found to be younger, and they were actually sent back. So, and what we've actually also had is, in the time since I've been on the program, 6 children have been released. They've been through the courts. There's no rhyme and reason why. There's no consistency with our courts at this point, the criminal justice system or the Commonwealth prosecutors. But there were the 3 that, you know, Mark Plunkett, Terry Fisher, you know, worked hard for pro bono up in Brisbane. That they had produced affidavits from village chieftains affirming their age. That's not a national police clearance, that's not a birth certificate, but it was sufficient for the Commonwealth prosecutors to actually, withdraw charges. Another 3 similarly also, and there's been about a dozen behind the scenes that have also been released after heavy campaigning.
Gerry, the wrist test. What's the problem with the wrist test? It's quite widely used, isn't it, as a way of identifying someone's age?
It's quite widely used to look at skeletal fissures and to see that they've closed. It's not an age, it shouldn't be used for age assessment, but is widely used for age assessment and is the only protocol at this point. Also, what's actually happened is Rudd's come back, and O'Connor and McClellan, that we're now going to be using a dental scan also for age assessment, but that's not fail-safe either, and it hasn't been used at all in the last couple of months. But to answer your question,
just
David...
quickly, Gerry, you've got about 10 seconds.
Yep. Okay. It's not accurate in terms of age assessment. In the UK, it's unlawful for age assessment. It's been slammed by medical associations, paediatric endocrinologists whose field this actually is, that it cannot ascertain age.
Gerry